And if I understand correctly, Melanie's proposal did account for potential wage increases that were anticipated from the union's compensation proposals.
So Melanie, if based on what we vote on tonight, would this allow for a pay increase for your FTEs, for staff?
No, it would not.
We need to stop the trauma of forcing LCS to make $1 out of 15 cents. Salaries, because we're hearing it. Let's talk about it. On the record, can we just get a number of the FTE salaries based on the different positions at the different locations? So, I mean, we're hearing from some of the union folks. I'm just trying to understand their concerns with what's being presented tonight. What's the base salary for some of these positions that we're hearing tonight? So I have a better understanding of what we're voting on and whether or not I believe it's equitable.
Yeah, Brandon McGuire, Assistant City Manager. I'm happy to kind of start off and maybe ask Misty and Melanie and Charlie and anybody else who wants to jump in to fill in the blanks. But I will say we've been, Misty was working with Melanie for, I don't know, a couple weeks around Thanksgiving, I think it was. And you heard references to our mention of a staffing model that Misty presented to the board a couple weeks ago. That was based on the best information that was available to Misty, which was provided by the LCS staff. And so obviously that was, I think in hindsight, limited information, not maybe accurate information, and there was even in discussion at last week's meeting one particular position that I remember that was pointed out as having a reduction in pay in Misty's recommended staffing model. I will say there is absolutely no intent to reduce anybody's pay, cut anybody's job, violate any federal regulations or laws. And that is not the motivation of the city's proposal, of the funding proposal. And I don't believe that's the motivation of the board of directors either. Misty's proposal, I believe, called for, was it $2,074,000 in city revenue or in total revenue?
In addition,
in,
not including the special.
Right, so this would be, it called for approximately $2,400,000 of city funds. Then Melanie came back the next week with a new proposal, and I'll just focus on that for a moment, and on the personnel costs, and that's salaries, wages, taxes, workers' compensation, and benefits. So Melanie's proposal came back. It was $2,950,000 in personnel costs. The proposal before you tonight has a total of $2,839,000 in personnel costs. So assuming Melanie, the $2.95 million personnel budget was as accurate as possible, or was accurate, I think the proposal before you tonight is about $100,000, $110,000 lower than that proposal. And if I understand correctly, Melanie's proposal did account for potential wage increases that were anticipated from the union's compensation proposals. I will tell you the first time we were aware, the city staff was aware of the union's compensation proposal was when we read about it in the paper earlier this week. The LCS employees are not city employees, so that bargaining would not occur between the city staff, city executive staff, or the city commission and the LCS employees. We'd certainly be happy, I think, to support that and to work on additional future funding agreements that may be needed resulting from compensation agreements. But we're certainly not the party to initiate those negotiations. And then the last thing I'll say is city staff, myself, Misty, county staff Jill Jollicoeur, we have asked to meet with the LCS employees and try to answer those questions a couple months ago, actually, and were advised that it was not maybe not the right time to do that. And so it is an awkward dynamic when we are a funder, we are a external organization working with a contract partner who is going through a lot of change right now, a lot of change, and really coming through for the community. We are here to help, but we can't, I don't know, it seems like maybe an ethical dilemma for me as a manager to go into another organization and start interfacing with their employees and do engagement processes with their employees if it's not clear that we're welcome to do so. So that's, I just wanted to sort of clear the air. We have no motivation to cut wages, cut employees. Even though it came in low, the staffing proposal that Misty presented, I think included funding for 79 employees based on the information that we had for wages. And I believe that is compared to 39 employees currently. So it is our intention to support LCS as it goes through labor negotiations, support LCS with additional positions, and help them do that work.
So Melanie, if based on what we vote on tonight, would this allow for a pay increase for your FTEs for staff?
No, it would not.
It would keep them at what amount?
Yes.
It would keep them at what amount?
Oh, $16.25 an hour for the frontline employees.
Okay. And frontline staff, how many of those FTEs are?
I'm not exactly sure how many frontline staff we have in FTEs without looking at it.
Ask a question, Mayor.
Mayor, real quick, just to set the tone a little bit more perspective. I'm not even going to begin to talk about what a lack of leadership is because I don't know what that is a reference to. And Commissioner Dever, you don't have to speak to it because I'm not going to speak to a lack of leadership for anyone. I think this is just a failure. And finally, what I'm excited about is our commission and our community is finally starting to admit that we failed. That we failed this commission, that we failed this community, we failed the city and the city staff, and those who are experiencing houselessness because of our dereliction of duty to do what's right at the beginning. And that's now catching up with us, and that we're dealing with it, but I'm glad we're dealing with it because we're not kicking the can down the road. And I know this is not going to be the last time that LCS and that the board and that Charlie and Melanie or the future ED comes to us and asks us for additional funding because they're going to need it. They're going to need it because the current pay is not adequate. The current system is not adequate. And once that new ED comes on board, yes, they're going to have that opportunity to build out that vision, to take what was provided to them by recommendation of the board, by recommendation of city staff, and make it their own. So, there's been enough applause given by other commissioners about the staff, and I don't dismiss that, because the staff at LCS and those who have been involved in direct service care, frontline care to those experiencing houselessness don't get enough accolades, not just from us, but from county leadership and from this community. So we all collectively have to do better about that. And, I know that we don't drive decision-making, but with these funding agreements come expectations. And so that expectation is driving how LCS is going to be successful. And I think anything less than that, we have to be mindful of that. What they're getting paid right now is not enough. It's not enough. So don't be fooled. It's not enough. We need to stop the trauma of forcing LCS to make $1 out of 15 cents. And that's what we've been requiring them to do since the city and this community decided to put the facility outside of view, outside of the view of downtown, outside of the view of the community, because they didn't want it to be part of the community. They othered it. And so we're dealing with the trauma of that othering. And it's going to cost us in capacity, in our own physical self, stretching ourselves to understand and continue to build on this, our understanding of this whole continuum as it relates to houselessness and its impact on affordable housing, access to mental health services, social services, and medical services. But we also got to start, but what I'm encouraged about is what we're doing is helping to relieve some of that trauma. And that is in that building that haunts those who are a part of it, whether they're frontline staff or they're individuals in that building. Because there's been a lot of trauma from the time I was a student here to now. And so that's what I look forward to. This is one step, and I'm hearing what Charlie has to say, but I hope, and I have faith and hope, that the board and future leadership will make sure that the staff gets the fund, gets the adequate salary that they get. Because based on the numbers that Charlie gave me, we're looking at $20 to $23 an hour. That's accounting for the cost of insurance. That's not enough for this. And we have to get out of this idea that the folks who serve the most vulnerable deserve the least. Because that's how we treat folks.